Reinhard Heydrich was one of the most powerful and feared figures in Nazi Germany. Before his death at the age of 38, he helped construct the system of surveillance, persecution, and mass killing that drove the Holocaust. He was born on March 7, 1904, in Halle an der Saale, Germany. His father, Bruno, was an opera singer and music school director. While his mother came from a musical family, Heydrich became a skilled violinist, but instead of pursuing music, he joined the German Navy in March 1922. He specialized in signals and communications and eventually became a naval officer. His career collapsed in 1931 after he broke a promise to marry the daughter of another naval officer and became engaged to another woman. A naval court found that his behavior had dishonored the officer corps, and he was forced to resign. The woman he chose to marry was Lena von Ost-Ten, a committed supporter of the Nazi movement. Through family connections, Heydrich was soon introduced to SS leader Heinrich Himmler. Himmler wanted to create an intelligence service that could investigate opponents and gather information for the Nazi Party. Heydrich impressed him with his ideas and joined the SS in August 1931. He was placed in charge of building the security service known as the SD. Heydrich began collecting files on political enemies, rival Nazi officials, and anyone who could potentially threaten the movement. After Adolf Hitler became German Chancellor in January 1933, the Nazis began destroying political opposition. Heydrich's intelligence network became a powerful weapon for identifying, arresting, and silencing the regime's enemies. In 1934, Heydrich took command of the Gestapo while continuing to lead the SD. He worked closely with Himmler to bring Germany's political police and intelligence services under SS control. Heydrich viewed communists, Democrats, Jewish people, religious opponents, and critics of Nazism as enemies who needed to be permanently removed. His offices created detailed systems for surveillance, indefinite detention, and imprisonment without trial. During the Night of Broken Glass in November 1938, Jewish homes, businesses, and synagogues were attacked throughout Germany and Austria. Heydrich ordered police not to stop the destruction unless non-Jewish lives or property were threatened, and he instructed them to arrest thousands of Jewish men. In January 1939, Hermann Göring authorized Heydrich to develop plans for what the Nazis called a solution to the Jewish question. At this stage, the regime was still focused heavily on forced immigration, but its policies were becoming increasingly violent. When Germany invaded Poland in September 1939, World War II began. Later that month, Heydrich became chief of the new Reich Security Main Office, commonly shortened to the RSHA. The organization placed the Gestapo, criminal police, and SD intelligence service under his command. This gave Heydrich control over one of the most powerful systems of terror in Nazi-controlled Europe. Following the invasion of Poland, units connected to Heydrich's security organizations targeted Polish leaders, intellectuals, clergy members, and Jewish communities. Their purpose was to destroy organized resistance and remove anyone the Nazis considered a threat. In June 1941, invaded the Soviet Union. Mobile killing units called the Einsatzgruppen followed the German military into occupied territory under orders issued through Heydrich's organization. These units, supported by other German forces and local collaborators, carried out mass shootings of Jewish men, women, and children. They also targeted Roma people, Soviet officials, and others classified as enemies of Nazi Germany. By this point, Heydrich was not simply gathering intelligence or arresting political opponents. He had become one of the central organizers of a continent-wide system of mass killing. In September 1941, Hitler appointed him acting ruler of the Protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia, the German-occupied Czech lands. Heydrich continued leading the RSHA while gaining direct control over millions of Czech civilians. He immediately imposed martial law, intensified arrests, and ordered the execution of resistance members. His brutality earned him lasting descriptions such as the Butcher of Prague. Heydrich combined terror with carefully selected rewards for industrial workers and farmers needed by the German war economy. Wages and food allowances were improved for some workers, while opponents, Jewish families and resistance members, continued to face imprisonment, deportation, or death. At the same time, he oversaw the persecution and deportation of Jewish people from the Czech lands. He also helped establish the Terezín camp and ghetto, which became a major center for imprisonment and deportation. On January 20th, 1942, Heydrich chaired a meeting of 15 Nazi and German government officials at a villa in the Berlin suburb of Wannsee. The purpose was not to decide whether Europe's Jewish population would be destroyed, because mass killing had already begun. Instead, the meeting was organized to coordinate government agencies in carrying out what the Nazis called the final solution. Heydrich announced that approximately 11 million Jewish people across Europe were included in their plans. The officials discussed deportations, forced labor, and the treatment of Jewish people in countries Germany had not yet conquered. No one present objected to the policy of systematic destruction. Heydrich now appeared to have an almost unlimited future within the Nazi leadership. British intelligence and the Czechoslovak government in exile therefore selected him as the target of a secret mission called Operation Anthropoid. 2 Czechoslovak soldiers, Josef Gabčík and Jan Kubiš, were trained in Britain and parachuted into occupied Czechoslovakia in December 1941. Local resistance members helped hide them as they studied Heydrich's movements and planned the attack. On the morning of 27th May 1942, Heydrich traveled through Prague in an open Mercedes with limited protection. As the vehicle slowed around a sharp corner, Gabčík stepped forward and attempted to fire a submachine gun. The weapon jammed. Heydrich ordered his driver to stop instead of escaping. Kubiš then threw a modified explosive towards the car, which detonated beside the rear wheel. Metal fragments and pieces of the vehicle struck Heydrich in his back and lower body. He attempted to chase his attackers before collapsing and being transported to a Prague hospital. Doctors operated on him, and for several days he appeared to be recovering. His condition then deteriorated after a serious infection developed in his wounds. Reinhard Heydrich died on the 4th of June, 1942. He was 38 years old. The Nazi regime organized an enormous state funeral in Berlin and presented him as a fallen hero. Hitler praised him publicly while privately criticizing his decision to travel without sufficient protection. The response against the Czech population had already begun. Martial law was declared, thousands of people were arrested, and the Nazis threatened death for anyone who helped the attackers or withheld information. German authorities falsely connected the village of Lidice with the resistance. On June 10th, 1942, the village was surrounded and completely destroyed. The men were shot, while most of the women were deported to concentration camps. Children were separated from their families, with a small number selected for forced Germanization, and most of the others later killed. 2 weeks later, the village of Ležáky was also destroyed because a radio transmitter connected to the resistance had operated nearby. Its adult inhabitants were shot, and nearly all its children were killed. Across the occupied Czech lands, 3,188 people were arrested during the reprisals, and 1,327 were sentenced to death. Jewish people from Prague were also deported to camps as part of the retaliation. The assassins and several other resistance fighters eventually took refuge inside the Orthodox Cathedral of St. Cyril and Methodius in Prague. Their location was exposed after another resistance member betrayed the network. On June 18, 1942, hundreds of German SS and police officers surrounded the church. After a prolonged gun battle, Kubiš died from his injuries, while Gabčík and the remaining fighters died rather than allow themselves to be captured. Relatives of the attackers and people who had supported them were arrested and transported to concentration camps. Many were later executed. Heydrich's death did not stop the machinery he had helped create. The RSHA continued organizing deportations, persecution, and mass killing across German-controlled Europe. An operation to kill the Jewish population of occupied Poland was later named Operation Reinhard in his honor. Approximately 1.7 million Jewish people were killed through this operation, primarily at Belzec, Sobibor, and Treblinka. Heydrich never faced a courtroom. He never answered questions about the people arrested by his police, the communities destroyed by his orders, or the millions marked for death by the system he helped organize. But his death became one of the most important acts of resistance carried out in occupied Europe. It proved that even one of the most protected men in Nazi Germany could be reached. The price was devastating. Lidice was destroyed. Ležáky was destroyed. Thousands were arrested. Families were wiped out. And the killing machine continued. Reinhard Heydrich was dead, but the terror he helped create was not. This has been Comic Book Cases. Thanks for joining us on today's deep dive into Reinhard Heydrich. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Stay curious, and we'll catch you on the next video.